just want to make sure everything's going. That's streaming. Streaming. And streaming. Alright, let's do it. Okay, this is a game between Smirnin versus F Valjo Pods. Valjo Pods. Let's call them Valjo Pods. And Smirnin. So Smirnin's white, and Pods is black. So we'll just do that. Okay, and this is the French Defense classical variation. So we're gonna get to walk through it, have some fun. Oops, I gotta flip the board for us so that we can start this party. Okay, so now we have that. We have C6, C3, knight F6. Then we push the pawn, and we have knight FD2, and then knight. I think it's C to E2. This is what was played in Pod's variation. Pod is black, so he's playing the classical, and Smir is playing white. And so we're getting to see ideas of where what white wants to do is they're wanting to set up a advanced variation of the French. One second, I gotta get a sip here, and then we'll talk about it. They're willing to give up a slight advantage in the opening to actually get their pawns connected like this, because they understand, they know that pawns is going to play c5, right? So they're wanting to get pawn to c3, and then they can also at that point get f4 in here, and knight to e3, and later on potentially a knight f, and maybe even starting to probe on the king side. So that's White's idea why they moved there, was to push c5. I'm c3 when c5 gets pushed, and c5 gets pushed. Then we have c. Oh, they did f4. Interesting. Interesting. f4, huh? This is a very peculiar move, because his move doesn't co-align with what should be out there. His move should actually be c3 here, pawn c3. This should be what he actually should have played after c5, is actually pawn c3 here. This goes more in line with the French classic variation of the Smirtin-F takes, and knight c3, or knight c6. Then they have knight f3, and then they can unwind their pieces. And if like check comes out here, you can actually play bishop, and then when bishop takes, queen takes, castles, knight g3, knight to b6, bishop comes out, pins the knight, bishop comes up, castles, and you get a playable game very similar to this. A playable game. But this kind of is very awkward. I kind of get the idea. They're wanting to play this move too. You could also, after c takes, and here you could in theory play f4 here if you wanted to. It just gives a little bit of a tempo gainer here, and then what would happen is castles. Knight comes out. You have knight here. You have knight comes, and then bishop, and then you can play something like bishop d3 here, rook, castles, and you get a similar position. But those are kind of the awkward lines. The main lines. I mean, this is kind of an awkward line, f4 here. He's wanting to hold a pawn, but a different way. He wants to allow, I guess, taking. I truly don't understand that. That doesn't make sense. That move actually doesn't make sense. Knight c3, then Plays knight c6 here, and now he gets his idea in of c3. So everybody's getting their old ideas in. There's also a line where, let me see here, d takes. No, let me see here. Not that. Let me see here. Let me see. What am I missing here? Oh, c takes instead of this move. C takes d, knight takes d, c6, and then knight f3. This is a line that I'm going over with you, but that's not the main line. This is kind of a one of the lines. But they didn't go down that way. Black actually played knight c6, knight c6 at that point. So black after this move, black goes b5 with the idea that if a bishop were to take, oh no, a bishop can't take a that's why, because the knight's in the way. So that's why they're getting in their ready-made attack already on b5 to b4, and they're going to try to disintegrate the king side. The queen side, so that they can have an in route with their bishop and their queen and their light square, the dark squares, have the whole team, the whole party started, as I like to say. Okay, so then you have f3 here, knight f3, b4, like what we talked about, and then f5 here, which is considered an interesting continuation here. They're thinking that this, my friends, is see white's counter striking on the king side, where black's counter striking on the queen side. And also, what we learned too is when a wing attack is happening, if you can counter in the center, which this area here is considered the center. Oh, sorry, right here. This is the center, but then there's, oh, sorry, right here. I have to get this here. I think that's right. Am I? Nope. I have to come over one moment. Thank you for your patience on this. This is considered the outward center, and these squares in here are considered the inner center, which is I call this the sweet spot, and this is where you see a lot of pieces get posted to control these squares in here, these ones in here. These ones, they want to control this. And that's why, like, a bishop posts on c5, or a bishop posts on f4, or a bishop posts on c4. They try to control these squares, but this is a center too, and that's why this pawn is thrusting to take out one of black's central squares, and they're also trying to prevent one of black's plans, which is if they can get the center by playing f6 here and undermine white's center, then they can white will have a disadvantage of position. But if white can trade off and get basically everything traded off like this, they still have their compact center, which gives them more space in the center, and white can play around the pawns. And that's kind of the idea that white's trying to do with f5 here, is actually trying to get this pawn on f7 to be on e6, instead of going to f6 and undermining the e5 square, or e5 pawn. And so those are the ideas behind certain moves. They're saying that this move, if you're thinking about this move, it's not the best continuation. It doesn't really at the moment do anything for the position. You have to, when white's striking in the side, on the sides, if it was king side or queen sides, you would want to hit in the center. You have to smash in the center, because you have to get counterplay, and that's why f5 was a good move. Interesting move for sure. So there we go. And also back here, I wanted to show you when this gets played, you can actually take here. This is one of the lines, and then this takes. And then what happens is you can actually potentially take here, and now you have an in route for the bishops and the queens to come in. not the best continuation that you're wanting. It's kind of a little bit scary at this point. You have to be careful when you allow such an open position for the pieces to just flow right on in naturally. That's why White played kind of their most active move. They're preparing that just in case this were to take, they could take here, and just in case they take here, they actually capture with check. So when the king takes, then the bishop takes back, and they again have a very strong light square bishop on the A1 to H8 diagonal. So yes, it's biting on granite for now, but when the center opens, it'll be a monster. So that's the whole line idea there. Okay, so we have e takes f5 here. That's what was played, and knight to f4 here. Now they're trying to take scope on the center, and White's trying to disintegrate Black's center so that they have a central majority pawns. Black kind of gave up their centralization of pawns. They wanted to keep in the works f6 here, pawn f6, and they realized that they couldn't do that unless they took. But remember, every move has a compromising setup here, my friends. So Black lost the protection of d5, and that's why White stepped in with knight to f4 to attack d5. They saw a pawn that was weak and unprotected, and then they're going for it. Okay, dokie. Then b takes c here, so, and b takes c, and rook to b8 here. They're not worried about giving this pawn back right away, because if the knight were to take, then this pawn takes and takes, and again you have a really high-powered open position for all the pieces to flow out like that. It's just getting kind of scary. I would, let's just say I wouldn't want to be white in this position. White's got a lot of problems that's going to be happening to his position or their position. So you have to keep that in your forefront when you make moves. Queen a4 here. A very interesting continuation. It's an okay move. It has a plan of attacking this pawn and attacking the knight. There still is a way that Black can defend. He has to play queen to b6 here. This kind of, oh, knight b6, interesting. Oh no, yeah, you're right. Oh, silly me. You didn't have to play that. This is actually the best move. That's reaction chess. See, the knight guards this here, and so how the knight gets protected is, wow, this is weird. Doesn't that put the knight on pre though? Hmm, that's interesting. That is an interesting. They're talking a potential like an idea instead of after a4. There's bishop. Instead of this move, there's actually a consideration of bishop b7 here, which allows for the protection of the knight, but it actually throws the advantage back into White's corner. Even though the knight gets to take here, taking. I think it's still kind of sketchy. It's barely holding on for Black. I think they did the best move with this, but man, that's hanging. I don't understand how. This is going to be interesting. This is very interesting. Bishop takes check, and they're saying that that's an interesting move again. And you know what? He's getting ready. Basically, this is going to trap the queen pretty soon. So he plays bishop d7. and bishop b5. Wow, that's super duper interesting. I have to check. I want to see. So c takes check. Okay, d bishop b5, bishop b7. Huh. I guess there's no rush to actually take here. But that is pretty interesting. These guys are keeping their pawns. That's what they're saying. There's a line where they're looking at after this bishop takes queen here is considered interesting as well. Then bishop takes check, knight d7, and then you have e6, and white basically traded uh, their basically pawns for a d takes c. Let me see. Let me make sure I'm doing this right. Oh, e. So e7. Wait a second. Let me make sure I have this in my notes correctly. It's not knight. It's not knight d7. It's king e7 here, and d takes c5 here, and then probably something like redeploying the knight. Boy, this is kind of very. It's still not easy for black to play here. This is not an easy move for black to play. Even though he's up a queen, he lost castling. And you could actually if you've watched Paul Morphy's the opera game, it's very similar. This Paul Morphy sacrificed everything, and he still got mate with they call it the alliance. It was the Earl and the Count actually played him, and so that was it was actually a game between them during the time that they were waiting for the play to start. They were like they were getting bored, so they played a game of chess while they waited for the next act to happen, and that game was played in the opera, which used to be that before we had they had cinemas and stuff like that. The opera was considered the cinema of that era. It was how they got all their basically their classic understanding and stuff like that for plays and stuff. It's pretty cool. It's really cool. The history of the opera game too. So look at that one if you want to see a really nice game. Morphy versus the Count and the Earl. They call it the Morphy versus the Alliance. Okay, dokie. So he didn't play that. They kept the advantage by playing bishop to e7 here. Now he wants to castle, get safe, and still win the queen after that. So we have d takes c, castles, d takes, c takes b, bishop takes c, 6, bishop takes c6, rook takes b6, and bishop to a4 exclam. So let's take scope on what white traded for the queen. One second. Let me get a sip of tea, and then we'll count. Okay, let's see the counterparts to each one of these. Excuse me about drinking in your ear if I did. So they have this, this, and this. So basically, white traded their pieces for these two knights and the queen and this bishop here. So they traded, if you want to think about it, equal pawn count. These are 3, 3, 3, 9, and 9. So they actually, Bobby Fischer actually did a very similar game where he traded his queen for three minor pieces and ended up grinding his opponent down into dust in his one of his games. I believe it was in the U.S. Championship. Bobby went 11 and 0. He actually won 11 games. It was pretty impressive how. I don't know if they've ever had a record similar that you win all 11 games at the U.S. Championship. So that they call it the Bobby Fischer Prize. If you could do it, you get an actual bonus in your for the pot that you get the money. Okay, because it's like super duper hard to do anymore because of chess engines. Castles there. A okay D4 here, and Smir actually does an exclam. Pods did an exclam, and Smir did an exclam here. And he's what he's trying to do is open up the queen to get max mobilization of their pieces. And White does a brilliant move, a very nice, not brilliant, but a very excellent move, castles. He realizes that the one thing that White has is piece majority. He has more minor pieces and more pieces that can get involved. And he knows that he's got one weakness, his king. And if he can get his king safetied, then it's a game. It's on. And he could say, bring it, bring it. You have a queen, yes, but I have two knights and a bishop for your queen. Let's play, friend. That's basically what he's saying. And the guy's going, okay, bring it. They're both saying, bring it. This is also a mistake. There's two sublines that could be played. Knight takes D is actually a mistake here because they're able to play rook takes. Rook takes B4. I'm trying to see. Did I miss put in a move or something? Let me see here. Oh, rook b4. How silly me! I thought it said rook takes b4. Rook b4 exclam. This is the brilliant move because he realizes that by winning this, if the pawn takes the rook, by winning this knight, he's forking and stopping the king from attacking. So if if pawn takes, which I'll do the main line first, bishop to c2. Um, then rook takes d. C takes d, queen takes d, rook b1, and then I think it's queen to c3 check. Queen c3 check in that spot is completely winning. Also, if back here, this is one line. If taking, this also loses on the spot too because you stop. This is what we were talking about, and this is hanging into the queen. So the queen is just like radiating her majestic power, and you get to see the power of the queen. It's like woohoo, yeah, go queen, go. As I say. Now there's one more line. If c takes d, this is also a mistake. So you have to make sure, even though you're taking pieces, you got to make sure that what you're taking merits, and the safety of your king merits what you're about to undergo, even if you're winning material. Make sure that you can hold, because some players like income, like the English would say, in for a penny, in for a pound. That's a phrase basically for all in. Like we say all in, they say in for a penny, in for a pound, and this is in for a penny, in for a pound, and for us, all in. So then F2 happens, King F2 is forced, and then we have C3, now a bishop to C3, with the fork on this and the attack here. So the rook's gonna fall, and it's game set and match at that point. It's over. And so Pods is black. Smurd found the correct move of castles. It's the only move that actually has any winning potential play that could happen on this. Otherwise, it's not working. There we go. Want to make sure I get this going. Okay, perfect. Want to make sure all the streams are. Sometimes I want to make sure my streaming is okay. I appreciate you waiting for me on this, and see if yes, everything's back to good streaming again. Okay, perfect. Thank you for waiting for me to check all that. Okay, back to what we were saying. Smyrn found the best move of king safety, even though he may have to give one pawn in exchange for that. He's now got a safe king. It's going to be harder for the queen to radiate her majestic power and just go all in, as I like to say, on the game. So he hey, there we go. We got excelente. We have a chatter. Excellent. Great. Glad to see that you're on. Perfect. That's always great. Okay, so back to what we're saying now. White. Now we're gonna get into this game. What happens after castle? C takes E. So black now has a pass pawn that's 2 squares away from queening. Doesn't have the full domination and crushing kind of capability, and that's what you have to be careful with, is when you go down like a queen for three minor pieces. Make sure that the king can't get safe. Otherwise, what'll happen is they can consolidate their minor pieces, or a rook maybe in two minor pieces, uh, to outplay you, because these three minor pieces are monsters when they get coordinated properly. Okay, so back to CTSD, rook d1. Now there's a attack on the queen. C5 check. So he's trying to make a pocket for the queen to come in, like e7 here, and then maybe safety, because they can't attack through to their pawns, so they're doing all that there. There we go. Just want to make sure I said hi to one of my viewers. Excellent. And if you have any questions, my friends, on Twitch, YouTube, or Kick, please put it in, because I'm streaming on those three platforms, and I will respond to that for you guys. And if you're listening, you can subscribe on Kick or YouTube, much appreciated, along with Twitch. Thank you so much for subscribing to YouTube and all that and all this good stuff at Twitch. Okay, So now this check happens. Of course, the king doesn't want to walk towards the center of F. He's more likely going to go H1, and we're going to see if that's actually what he does. I believe it is what he actually plays. Yeah, King H1, and then now we have Queen to C8 here. This is an idea of basically they're trying to work this passed pawn here and take basically get it as close as they can to the end of the board to queen. But it's going to be difficult because there's so many minor pieces that black has, white has that could stop that. And these are just you know how on like a game you have a whole bunch of little bitty guys in an army, and they're all like all out there, and you're thinking they may not be do a lot of damage, but there's so many of them you can't defeat them all at once, and then your character ends up perishing, or you lose the game because of all those little guys that are little people that are playing on there, the NPCs. You have a very similar type of situation. You have all these pieces here, and they're just such a menace. Like they're little pains in the drains because you have to somehow gobble some of these up to get an advantage. And if you can't, then these little guys will walk around all over the place, and you'll be like, I can't stop them. And then eventually they outnumber you. A good example in a movie was actually A Bug's Life, when the ants finally realized that they were greater than the grasshoppers. There were more of them. Before, they didn't understand that there were more of them, and they were stronger together. And then when they did, then they were able to overwhelm the grasshoppers. And so, very similar to the same thing. If you want to think of the queen as that example of a grasshopper, these three minor pieces can actually overwhelm a queen sometimes. And then she'll have to move away or potentially, sadly, get captured for maybe two of them, and then you're still a piece up, 3 pawns. So you got to be super duper careful. Okay, so we have knight d5 here. This is now threatening to probe in here and also come in. He's now Smir is actually coordinating his pieces. He's getting them all in Operation Go Go, and he wants to make sure that he's not letting down any of his you know push, as I like to say. So that's always his ideas. He's also attacking a rook here. So remember, these little guys are pains when they get going. So just keep that in your forefront of knowledge. When these little guys get going, they can be a bad problem. Okay, we're getting into now after knight d5. What in, hold on, let me see. They're going at 8. They're saying h6. That's an interesting continuation. Some of these moves are really interesting. Knight takes. Wait a second. Knight takes c3. Oh, he's not interested in the rook. Interesting. He's not interested in the rook. He wants to nab this pawn here. Wow. Sometimes you have to ask yourself, is it worth going after a pawn rather than trading one of your pieces for the rook? Because remember, if more pieces come off the board, the queen becomes more powerful. So it looks like it's enticing to grab this, but in reality, this is actually not the best continuation. Taking it here is actually considered one of the best continuations because you eliminated black's pass pawn. Now you can start playing against these pieces here. And black doesn't have any more passed pawns. White doesn't have to worry about that, which means it relieves all of white's potential pieces that would have to stop this c3 pawn. So even though the engine didn't like it and it kind of gave it a negative point 5, which means 0.58, which is good for black, you have to prove it. Remember, you have to prove this. So it's not like this is you have to actually find the correct move. It's sometimes finding the correct moves in these situations are really hard. So you have to always keep that in your forefront of your knowledge that even though the engine's giving you an advantage, you have to find that move. Because if you don't, then white's idea is actually very strong with their knight takes c3, the pawn. So okay, so we looked at that. He took there, which that's the interesting move. And then there's also a line where they talk about. We'll just go over that quick line because I got to show it to you. I talked it, but sometimes the best thing to do is show it through my notes here. It's takes, and let me make sure I have the notes right. So takes h4, and then you have f4 here, exclaim. And if bishop takes f4, then you're in deep waters. They're saying that that's actually a double question mark blunder. And I will step back and allow you, because this I want you to see why. I see why, but I just want you to see why this is considered a blunder here. I'll give you a little bit of time to. I'll get a sip of water. I'll give you a second to find out why this is a complete blunder. It's a little, excuse me, it's a little difficult of a position to find. I know you could do it. I believe in you. If you find it, you're 2 pawns up to the good. So you're basically a superior winning position at that point. If you find this one move. Okay, if you are listening on, the recording, and you get to this point and you haven't found it, you can also stop it and then try your best to find it. But if you don't want to do that and you want to follow along with us, just continue listening. Queen to g4 is the crushing move. It's the actually it's the devastating move because there's really no way to you're actually winning because if the bishop retreats to h2, I know you saw this. The bishop on a4 hangs, and that's game, set, and match at that point. See ya. There's no hope anymore. Bye bye. Bye bye. So that's that. That's why taking they can't take after. Why isn't? Hold on. What? Okay. So takes. Hold on. I want to make sure I did this right. That one is there. That's why you can't take. Okay, perfect. We did all the lines. Excellent. And then G4 is actually, I forgot to add the exclam mark to it. But see, that didn't happen. White didn't walk into takes and go through all that pain and more pain and more pain. So they decided to, Smurds decided to just take the pawn, save his pieces, keep them somewhat. He's got to get these guys coordinated. See, remember something. They're not all, unless they're safe. They're hanging. Like this, there's nothing defending this. There's nothing defending this bishop. And there's nothing actually defending this rook. So the pieces that are potentially on pre are the bishop on a4, c3, knight, and the rook on d1. So unless they can get these pieces, like I said, working together and safe their liabilities. Uh, okay, so we knight takes rook d8. Also, the more pieces that come off the board for white, the greater chance the bishop has. Hey, how you doing? How you doing? Glad to see you on, bro. And so, yeah, if you have any questions on what's going on in this game, the game is I Smyrn versus Valley Pods. Yeah, Valley Pods. And Pods is black, and Smyrn is actually white. And this originated from a classical French variation of the Steinitz line. And so we're talking about how where white actually traded their three minor pieces for their bishop, and how they're trying to get their minor pieces coordinated together. And if they can't do that, then the queen will actually arise superior for black. And there's also right now black's wanting to trade off more pieces. So what's happening is they're going down. There's a book called Liquidation on the Chessboard, and I think it's Benjamin. I forgot what his first name is. Like Joel Benjamin. I think that's his name. He's the author of it, and he says that at certain points in the game, it's time to liquidate down. And at this point, black realizes that the more pieces that come off the board, it makes this queen stronger, because then she has more targets to attack the small minor pieces. But if white can keep the minor pieces and their pieces on the board and get them working together, then white will actually have an advantage. But if they can't, then black's just going to walk all over white. And I think that's what actually happened in this game here. This is a pretty interesting game. We were actually talking formerly about also how Bobby Fischer had a similar game. I believe it was in the U.S. Championship, where he traded his queen for three minor pieces, and he outplayed his opponent. He totally outplayed him with these three minor pieces. So it's not like the queen's just going to all the time walk over your minor pieces. Bobby got him coordinated together, and then he just slowly but steadily squeezed until his opponent, collapsed. He got a pass pawn, and then won the game and ended up queening. He traded all three pawns. I believe in the game he traded all of his three pieces off, and for the queen, and the pawn ended up queening, and so he won by like some sort of checkmate. It's a beautiful game if you want to look at it. I don't really remember the date, but I know I believe it was the U.S. Championship. So you can go and search that one out. That was Bobby Fischer's younger years, and a pretty cool game. Okay, back into the fray. It's good always to take a quick break, look at the position, analyze it, and that's how you get better in chess. Okay, so we did a rook d1. Okay, so he's taking. Okay, he's basically kind of obliging black's idea here. And so then bishop to b3. This is the first piece getting safety. So there's this piece that's safety now. All they need to do is get these other three pieces here safe. And once they do that, then their operation go for a counter strike. I call it Operation Counter Strike for white. So if Pods doesn't stop Smyrn will eventually overpower him. So he's got to do that. And we're going to get to see how he actually does that in good fashion. So we have bishop D. Okay, queen to D3 here. Queen D3. There we go. Trying to take advantage of the weak weak knight. See how when pieces are weak, and so I'm gonna say probably I'm gonna estimate or guesstimate, as I like to say, that he's probably gonna play bishop to B2. We're gonna see if that's what he plays. Yep, bishop B2. Now everything's protected for at the present moment. indirectly this bishop's protected because the knight guards this square here, the knight guards this square. There's no in route. The bishop guards here, and this bishop guards the knight. So all the pieces now are protected. Now we're going to get to see if white has enough firepower and enough coordination to get his pieces rolling down the board and start giving a little bit of pain back to white to black for all the attacking that black's been doing, and we'll get to see all that. So B, okay, rook takes B, B3, boom, kaboom. You gotta love those moves. It's like Calabunga. This is like a Calaboom. And at that point, A takes. Now, now surprisingly, um, black is down material. If you want to take the pawn, let's take a count to see if we're right. There's 4 pawns here, plus 9 is what? 13. No, sorry, 5 pawns. Plus 9 is 14. That's 17. So there's 4 pawns here. Let's just count these. This is 9 and 5, so that's 14. Actually, yeah, they're 1 pawn. I think they're 1 pawn ahead. Let me see. So that's 14. I think why no, they're equal material. Wow. White's actually equal material here with black for this capture. That's crazy how that's why these super grandmasters are super grandmasters. They can instantly calculate these pawn sacrifices, rook sacrifices, and they know that the position is either good for them or they have equal material and they can hold. So it's pretty cool. I like these type of games when they're like they don't have balance. Like having 3 minor pieces for the queen is an imbalanced game, and if you know how to handle those, you can actually go into this and really shell shock. As I like to say from the Ninja Turtles, you could shell shock your opponent. So there takes there. Okay, Queen C2, trying to take advantage of the bishop. So then now, Rook's gonna have to go to either B1 or A2. The Rook's gonna have to go that. I think it might go to B1. I'm not exactly sure. It might go to A. It might go to A2. We'll take a look to see. Oh, knight to A4. Interesting. Very interesting. Trying to well, if he wins that, maybe they could play Rook C1 here. If Queen takes the pawn, Rook C1 might actually be a game move that after Queen takes, then the Rook takes. It's going to be interesting, let's just say, after that move. This is getting to the fun. I like it. This is the fun stage of chess. Bishop E3. Now they moved out of the way. It's equal. It's an equal position if Smir can actually find E3 here. Hopefully he does. He plays B4. Interesting. Ooh. The engine did not like that. They liked this move here. And then if F takes, you actually could play bishop to D4 here. Bishop takes D4, knight takes D4. Queen to E4 here. And now I believe it's rook to D1 here. And now you have the idea of potentially rerouting your knight. You still have your semi-pass pawn there. So interesting for sure. But B4, they're trying not to let the queen. They're trying to hold everything together. Everything's protected for now. So it's not like white's in any danger yet. So White can still hold if they play proper continuation of their moves. So B. So then Pods plays the a really strong move. He's trying to decombobulate White's position here with playing the next move G5, G4 here. This is going to make his knight not as strong and less coordination in the position. He'll have to retreat back here, which potentially will allow a queen to probe into. See if they can get G4 in. They're going to have to play basically G1 here. If they play G4 after this G5, I'm not G4, E1, knight E1 after G4, then the queen can actually potentially come in via um, queen F2 to G1 mate. So get kind of sketchy and scary here for white. Black's not taken off, as I like to say, the throttle. He's still got the pedal to the metal, and he's going for it all. Okay, bishop d4. Now he's trying to trade off pieces. I think it's a little too late. F4 here. Very good move, actually, because if the bishop trades, then black gets re-energizes the threat of a passed pawn on the e file. And this queen is strong enough to escort this pawn down the board and maybe even checkmate with proper queen and pawn mobilization together. Okay, here, Sapishti, F4, H3. Trying to make a poke hole or a flight square for the for white. But also remember, we talked about this in our former games, that there were this is now considered something called a hook, and so it's a move where black could actually go, not now of course, but later go H5, G4, and basically disintegrate this side and then get a full powerhouse pass pawn on the F file. So that's why you got to be careful when you make these hooks, that they're not able to, your opponent's not able to take advantage of your hook and basically, I hate to say this, is called crush you. Sometimes they just crush you because they'll open it up and it'll be sad. It's all because of the hook, as I like to say it. Okay, so we have F, bishop F4, H, knight C5. Oops, actually, I gotta H3. Oh, H5 here. Wow. Oh, so he is going after the hook. Knight to C5 here. And let's see if he gets G4. Yep, he gets G4 in. Who'd have thunk? We actually spotted Grandmaster moves. Congratulations, guys, if you spotted that and saw the vulnerability of H3. Great work there. You did a super duper job. Knight to E1. Attacking the queen. So it's not it's not out of the woods yet. There's still four pieces that are hopping around the game, and if white can coordinate them, you're in a problem at that point, my friends. You're in big problem. So queen to F5 here, trying to push on with F3 here. They're trying to disintegrate the king side, get rid of these pawns where the king's exposed to the world, and then Pods is going to use his queen and bishop superiority to just basically boa constrict and destroy his opponent. Very, very good game by both players. I think they're hanging in there. Black's hanging in there, going pedal to the metal. White's trying to put the brakes on and keep the position holding. I don't know. I think it's out of White's control at this moment. I don't see that White has any chance here, but you never know. Your opponent might make a mistake, and then you can get a draw or maybe even a win with a mate in like two or one. So let's see, where are we at here? We're at 33. So bishop takes bishop, and then the pawn takes, of course. So we're going down the route where black creates a pass pawn. Knight e to d3. So now all the pieces are finally coordinated. This knight and this rook. Now they can start working together. But is it too little or is it too late? We'll have to find out. I think it's too little, too late though, because black has too many threats of pushing this pawn with pawn push, and then just coming down the board with queen to f1. Check. I don't see any way that they can hold. They may even throw in h4 and then g3 here, and then totally cement the KO. They might even play g3. I'd be tempted to actually, at this present moment, play g3 here, just to tighten the barricade around white here. This move g3 is a shell shock. It'll take the breath away of your opponent, because your opponent will actually want to have a flight square on h2, and then they'll realize that they don't have a flight square there. And at the right moment, you can play e2, and then play checkmate after the takes here, because there's a pawn here guarding h2. So that's that play there. So 35, 92, g takes. So black's going down the taking route. That's also a route that they go down. Taking here, and then after takes, they then have queen f3 here, check, and then they can get their pawn promoted that way. So there's two ways. This is more of a direct where you're winning a counter strike. As I like to say, Thor. Who is it? It's Hercules' dad. You guys will know who it is. Hercules' dad was the god of lightning bolts, small g, and he was the one that allowed for a pawn. He was allowed to throw bolts down and cause basically lightning and stuff like that. So Zeus, that's who it is. Glad I remembered that, Zeus. So this is Zeus's lightning bolt. Boom, right there. Kaboom. Rook g1. And then in comes the friendly little e-pawn. Our friendly little... Whoa. Oh, I'm sorry. That wasn't the move. H takes G. Good job. Wait a second. That still is considered a draw? Almost a draw? Wow. That's incredible. Takes, check. Oh man. Like I'm telling you guys, these games are incredible. Because who'd have thought that white would actually find a counter check right there? You gotta admire these grandmaster players. They can pull out rabbits out of their hats without even a problem. They're like, phew. But there's also again a problem. There's a threat of a checkmating idea. See, this is an idea where your opponent might fall into, where if there wasn't a check, by the way, but there's a check here, so black has to react. But if there wasn't and it was your turn, you can actually throw check h2, h3 here, and if the rook goes to h2, do you spot the mate where black can actually win with his queen? If it was, let's say there's no check, okay? Let's say there's no check here, and it was black to move, and they played queen to h3, and then what happened was the rook thought, I'm gonna be wise and block on h2. What is the checkmating move here for black? I'll give you a second to think about it. White rook's here, black queen is here, and it's black to move. I'm gonna get a sip of water, let you think about that, stop it for a moment, and see if you can see that pattern, or if you already do, just wait for a second, and others will be able to continue on with us. One sec. Okay, excuse me on drinking your ear if I did. Water's nice to replenish the old throat. Okay, if you spotted that queen to f1 was mate because the rook's here that blocks the flight square uh, of the king, congratulations, excellent job. But that didn't happen in the game because black's in check. But I just wanted to show you a pattern that could arise. And that's why you do, and that's why, on just a side note, I'm going to just talk to you for a second. That's why, just on a side note, you do tactics. Tactic patterns are very, very vital to chess improvement. Because if you wouldn't have seen this move, you would have seen the check, but you would not have seen what would happen after rook h2 if you hadn't noticed the pattern of the queen and the like either a pawn or a knight or rooks on h2. You wouldn't notice this checkmating idea. But congratulations and excellent job, 5 stars, my friends, for spotting that. Okay, so let's see, we're on move 37. So rook takes check, king f8, then rook to g3, which this was the mistake that costed Smirn right here. This is his devastating blow. They're saying there's one better move, and I want to see if you can spot the move. There's one excellent continuation that potentially could save white here. Only one. I'm gonna give you a quick second to think about it, and if you want, you can stop, set it up on the board or on your computer, and see if you can spot it without. Try not to use the engine if you can. Okay, try not to use the engine. Let's see if you can spot this move. Excellent. If you spotted king h2, congratulations. Nice work. That's a tide turner right there. Now the queen really doesn't have any mobilization. That see the weird thing is this is almost a complete draw here. Everything is coordinating together perfect. The rook is no more checks. Um, these knights are working good. They're guarding. This knight's guarding this pawn, guarding that pawn. If a4 here, pawn takes. White has passed pawn. There's no way for if f6, pawn takes f6, queen takes f6, and then there's potential ideas of after this pawn moves, making a rook to f2 here with a pin. So there's still a lot of hope for white in this game, but sadly the uh, Smur didn't see that, and he played the incorrect move of rook to g3. And now it allows black to push his pawn, and it's basically over. See, the whole idea about this, we'll go back really quick. The whole idea about this king to h2 move is that they can't push e2 here because the rook would take, and there's no checks. There's no check here. There's nothing. This actually shuts down all of black's counterplay. One move, king h2, shuts it all down. But rook g 3 is a losing continuation. So we talked about e2, rook e3, trying to get in behind and win this pawn and protect the pawn. King h2, a little too h4 here, king h2 here. And now, and by the way, if you were thinking about taking this move here, it's actually a double question mark. I know you know why, and I know you didn't fall for that. But if you did, work it out why it's wrong. And of course, you see that this happens here. And so the only way that white could be able to take this pawn is actually to play king to h1, h2 here. Now this pawn can be taken, but again, remember, it's not like this is without danger. King to g, danger, Will Robinson, as they like to say. This move is a complete winner. There's no way that he could actually take here. Oh, they were actually saying back here if rook takes here. This was they didn't actually think about this line here. I thought that the author said this one's even better because and it actually is better. I'd almost give this one an exclam here because when you come up, then you win, and now you're up a whole rook with check. So the other move that we did with Queen F3, um, still wins, but it allows the king to kind of get off out of the corner, as I like to say, and potentially there could be some play still left. But king h1, and then queen g5. This attacks the rook, and prepares for a potential infiltration um, with. Let me see. What can he actually do here? This is kind of interesting here. I'm just trying to see why is that a good move? Because sometimes some of these moves I'm like wondering what. I think it has to do with that if he takes, then you have g3 here check, and then you can actually start walking this pawn down the board. Still very sketchy. If you don't know what you're doing, these knights and rooks can still cause a headache with a fork and stuff. So they played knight to d7 check, which is actually a counter strike. Really, they're saying it's an exclam move, but the engine's hating it. The engine actually hates this move. King G7 was what was played, but they're actually saying that King E7 is actually the crushing blow here, and then you have F knight to F6 here. King E3, King E6, rook takes, Queen G3 here. You're still up material. King H1. You can either take this knight here or play F3 here, and after this, then you go down. Wow, knight F. Oh wow. See how the knights could get tricky if you play the wrong move. You have to take this knight here, And now there's another pass pawn that could come up the board. And white has three pawns. The queen can actually come over and start gobbling up these pawns and make another passer. Very, very strong for black. Still strong is king g7, but not as strong. I think now rook takes e, queen g3, king h1, and queen to h3 exclam here. Yeah, this they set up for this move that we talked about, a devastating knockout. There's some more moves that happen, so we're going to go down these moves. There's if queen takes d3 here. Surprisingly, if you looked at that, this is actually a completely drawn position here. This is surprisingly rook g2, check, king h6, rook f6 here. I mean not rook, knight f6, exclam. Now white's starting to play good. He'd be lucky. Queen to f1 check. Rook king h2. Queen f4 check. King h3. Queen takes pawn. Knight g8 check. King h5. Knight f8 or f6 check. King h6. And knight g8 would be a perpetual, because if he comes down here, I think that this is really interesting. I'll show you something. If he comes here and then you check here, do you know it's black that's actually mating? I mean white that's actually mating now. Welcome to the Arabian maid pattern. So that's why it's perpetual here, is because the king can't go to h8, so they would have to go to these two squares back and forth and back to h6, and that would be the draw, the perpetual. They're saying though, if where is this move on move 47 here? If the queen took e5, let me see. If the queen took on e after this move e5 here, this would be considered a complete mistake, because of course you see knight g4, and the queen goes. Now do you see the power of the tricky knight? And that's why you got to be careful when you're dealing with knights. But he didn't fall for that. He did the check, the proper move. Smirn plays king to g1, and then queen takes d7 here. Knight f2. Knight f2. Queen f5. Rook to e4. Queen f3. King f1. h3. Rook g8, g4 check. King f8. Now this pawn's going to be pushed. This e pawn, my friends, is going to be pushed. It's going to be pushed here. So we're on okay. H4. I'm thinking that they could actually play. I think queen to g2 was the play here. Queen g2, and then king e2, h2, one square away from queening. Rook h5 here, and then king to g2, g7 here. Exclaim. Now that all the pieces are locked down and guarding against this pawn here, um, Black's going to activate his king to try to come up and dislodge a lot of pieces here. This is pretty stellar how they know when to activate their king. Like rook h here, rook h4, queen to g3, exclaim, and then rook e4, and queen f, queen takes f2, and this is the final knockout because when the king takes, then the queen happens, and I'll show you. His opponent resigned at this point here. This happens, and it's over. But let's see. There's a move back here where on 52, instead of queen to g3, they're also saying another exclam continuation is. Sorry, hold on. Let me hold on. They're saying that h3 is a move here that white could play, and then another continuation is queen takes h3 here. This is another knockout blow. It loses on the spot. I would almost say that this would be a double question mark. I don't know why they didn't mention the double. This is a double question mark blunder here. They didn't put it in there, but I'm going to put it in there because that is a blunder, complete blunder. After taking, knight takes, queens. Well, they're saying if white tries, let me see here, 50. Sorry, I have to go back here. I apologize for this. If make sure I'm hold on. H5. Oops, H5. King G6. H8. And then queen to queen takes E5. And it picks the rook up. So this move's actually another, in my opinion, double question mark blunder. So that's that move continuation. And then the cool thing is the next game that we're gonna do, but we're gonna do it later. We're gonna do a Hikaru Nakamura game, and that'll be later today. So if you want to log on and view it, and you're watching, hey, how you doing? Excellent, huh? It's doing really good. It's doing good. So, but like if you want to like later on in the day, you can come. I can't guarantee 100%, but I'll guarantee 80% that I probably could stream, just in case the power were to go out because of snow that we're having right now. So yeah, I may not be on just in case that. But if there is no snow, power outages, I'll be on later this evening. So, but I wanted to leave you with all this. What can we take away from this? The French defense, this move back here, I'm going to show you. We're going to go all the way back. So just don't get confused. We're going to walk through. We do a summary every time to explain certain move sequences. They're saying that the author is saying that this is that white controls basically gives a loss of time. This is a loss of time move. But if you can play it properly, like what we talked about with uh, E3, C3, sorry, when if you play C3, C3 properly at this point, not f4, then you have a standing chance of holding the position. But as we saw, Smyrn played f4 here instead, and the author said that's what was his losing declining move. Was allowing the pawn center to get basically obliterated for white. And we're going to talk one more moment about this before we log off. We know that, and we're going to stop here. We know that black's favorite idea, and we're going to go back to the very beginning, and I want to talk to you from this position because that's very confusing. If these pawns right here are white's babies, if they can get the pawn pushed to e5 here, pawn e5, and white can hold these little guys in there, and black can't break down e5 and d4. White will have a slight advantage, very tiny advantage, that they could eventually build around, and then at a certain point they can counter strike because they'll have more central control. They'll have control of these two squares here and this square here, and that'll be vital for pieces jumping in. So the whole idea is if white, and I'm just going to show you this. It wasn't playing the game, but I just wanted to show you an idea where e5. This is the optimum setup for white. If these pawns were gone, and this was left for white, white would have an advantage, maybe a tiny advantage, but that's the whole idea. Black's trying to nuke, as I like to say, nuke these two pawns here. These are the two pawns that black tries to get rid of, and he does it by two types of breaks, c5 and f6. So just a little bit of reminder. That's why when Smyrn allowed Pods to actually basically take one of his central pawns, the d4 pawn, with c takes d4, and then yes, he took it back with a knight. It's still he got Pods got his one of his ideas in of not nuking one of these pawns here. He got rid of it, and so by doing that, then he had a tiny slight advantage, and he slowly over the entire game nourished and cultivated his advantage until he eventually overwhelmed his opponent and beat him. So that's good. I'm glad you're having a good time. And so that's the whole name of that game. So we're gonna call it on this. Wanted to thank you all for logging on Twitch, on YouTube, and on Kick. And remember, we have decisions that we have to make in the game, and the ultimate decision that we have to make is the choice of eternity. Where are we going to spend eternity? Because like a grandmaster chess player, they have to pick the right squares for their pieces, and we have to make the right decision for us for eternity. And it's all based on what are you going to do with the Lord Jesus Christ, and I pray that you receive him as Lord and Savior. But back to what we're saying on our motto that we always talk about, because that's important. The motto is important. So the whole thing is we have to take what we know, be able to apply it, be willing to do something with it. Treasure your victories, learn from your losses. Remember that mistakes don't define who you are. It's how you handle mistakes that defines who you are as a chess player, a person, and decisions in life. And Bruce Lee talked about the vital decision of taking what you know and be able to apply it. And then he also says you have to be willing, but you have to do something with it. So if you don't apply it or do something with what you're learning, then it's for naught. It's not being used to the greatest of its ability to honor the Lord and to help push and make you a better player and person also. So I wanted to again thank you all for logging on, and please, if you like, please click follow on subscribe on YouTube, and follow on both Twitch and Kick. Much appreciated to help the streams. And so be blessed, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Bye bye, my friends, and have fun learning chess the Chess Cruncher, Team Chess Cruncher way. Bye bye.